We're just chucking anything out trying to lose this.
Okay.
It's funny using that phrase, that unmitigated goodness. That was really good.
Unmitigated good.
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 Good. Good. Glad I got that. Great. Well, thanks again to Mark. It's great to have you back in the hot seat.
Yeah, it's great. Hopefully community groups are going well and learning some stuff.
What I'd like to do, Mark, before we kind of kick off, is that for people that are new to community groups or new to the church, and they don't know much about kind of missions.
Yeah.
I heard that you're going on a mission with your family to Uganda.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about that a little bit and why and how? And
well, Kawash is in Chibali in Uganda, and my family's been there 2 years in a row. I just fell in love with it. Epicenter of AIDS, tons of orphans, all the stuff that the Bible kind of tells us to deal with. Literally, kids walking 2 hours to school, 2 hours to get water. 1,500 students at this amazing ministry. So. They have a clinic, they have a school, and friends of ours, they've become friends over the last couple of years, run it, and it really is amazing. I mean, you go back, it's like you're going back in time. It's mud huts, half patched, people sleeping outside, raining on them, people sleeping on the floor, kids, whole generations wiped out through AIDS, and so you don't have a lot of 35-year-old people. You have grandmas and you have little kids because the mid-group's out. So anyways, so amazing ministry. So we're taking some families there, 3 or 4 families, and we're going in and we bring stuff for all the kids that we support. So we have a bunch of kids that we support, and it's like $40 a month, and the kid and their family gets medical. They get to go to school. They have a future. So the school's 1,500 kids, and every year there's graduates, and then more kids get sponsored. And so we have all these families who support, so they're going to hang out with their own sponsor kid as we are, and then all the other people. So we do home visits, we work in the clinics, we go. There's a special needs class, so all the kids get to go and actually do ministry too, which is amazing. So anyway, my first time in Africa.
Wow.
Really excited about it, and it's so close to my family's heart. My kids love it. It's a place they want to move to.
Wow.
Yeah, my oldest is like, when I'm 18, I'm out. And I'm like,
Really?
It's a long flight, to be honest. It's not good. So anyway, no, obviously, if that's what Jesus wants, kids to do, it's a good thing. So anyway, so that's what we're doing. So we're excited about it. So pray for us. We're gone for 2 weeks, and
Well, and seriously, let's be praying for Uganda. Let's be praying for the trip out there. And actually, our film guy as well, Nolan's going out there. So thanks, man.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So let's dive into this week, Mark. Again, we're back into 1 Corinthians 4, 13 to 17. And actually, there's kind of key things that you're bringing out. One is that we need to be satisfied in God, okay, and this whole idea of downward mobility.
Yes,
so we talk about that. Second thing is that you mentioned about righteousness and that we need to be forced for Christ. And actually, that can involve some suffering.
Right.
And the last thing is about good fathers. And how those conversations with good fathers can be tough. Okay,
Right.
but it's better to be tough. Okay, in that
right.
situation. So the first one, which we're going to touch on, is that first verse 13, is that us being satisfied in God. Okay, and how everyday pleasures can get in the way almost, kind of tie us down.
Sure.
And how we can be freed from that, and why being satisfied with God is this whole idea of that we're no longer thinking about the temporary.
Right.
We're kind of touching on to the eternal. So
Right.
can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week too. Just this idea that delayed gratification is one of the toughest things that we have as a culture, even as a generation. I think 2 generations ago, there was more delayed gratification in normal life.
Yeah.
My grandmother would save buttons and elastics, to use, where we just throw that garbage out and buy new ones, right? It's like, what are we talking about, right? It's like delayed gratification. Or, you in order, if you wanted to go on a vacation in my grandmother's, you'd go on one a year and you'd save up.
Yeah.
If you wanted to buy something, you had to save up.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy concept to my generation. Like save, what do you mean save up? Like you have to have the money first, then buy it. It's like, what do you mean? So anyway, all of that plays into a spiritual reality where we want the gratification now. And so the whole point of me talking about the temptation of Jesus was he gets the short-term quick satisfaction. Jump off the temple, everyone's going to follow you.
Yeah.
And then you got what you wanted. You came here so people follow you. So it's not like the devil was trying to tempt him with something other than his vocation, something other than his mission. It was just he can get it quicker. Turn the stones into thing. Everybody wants bread. Turn them into bread. Everyone's going to follow you and love you. Isn't that why you're here? And Jesus took the hard road, the long road, the suffering road, delayed the gratification, not just so because he had a mentality. I think this is how we've pitched it to Christians: suffer, be about, just go through life and suffer more than everybody else. It's like it was for a reason. Hebrews said it was for the joy set before him. He endured the cross. He had this positive affirmation reason that it would inspire him in the suffering. So my point was, don't just suffer for suffering's sake. For instance, if you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars going to Uganda with your family on a trip, if that's you, then you do that because of instead of going to Hawaii, maybe. And so what's gonna inspire you to that? Well, is it just like, well, that seems like the right thing to do? It's like, it didn't really inspire me very much. It's like, it's the right thing to do. Maybe you get no payback for it in this life. You just spent that money and had to whatever. But in the next life, the work that you did there, the 80 million, the rewards, may be better because you did it. But you got if you're in medical school right now and you have to not go to the kegger and you have to, whatever. So that was the metaphor. So there will be, even if you don't see payback in this life, the inspiring thing to a Christian is you get payback in the next life. And anyway, so that was the point of that. So sometimes if I'm honest, if I'm trying to appeal to your heart and actually get you to sacrifice right now, I got to put that carrot out for you. To be honest, because I don't know another way I can inspire you to give stuff up.
Right. Okay.
Because you're not naturally just a selfless person.
No, we're not.
You're going to need a payoff. And so go read the Sermon on the Mount. How many times did Jesus talk about reward? Don't store up treasure on earth where rust and moth can destroy, where it can be stolen. Store it in heaven. Store it in heaven. What do you keep talking about this reward stuff? What do you mean? He's saying, think about the next 80 billion. So that's, I know we've hammered this point, over and over and over. We're done with it for now, but that's Paul's kind of one of his major points in 1-4, chapters 1-4. So,
okay, good. So let's discuss that as a group. Let's think about how God may put the finger on things in our lives, that we're kind of absorbed into, when actually, if we were just kind of open our hearts up and think, look, well, how do you want to use me? How do you want to focus me? What a gifting that I have? And maybe that could be for you a trip to Uganda, or it could be into your neighborhood as a kind of local missions thing. So let's just think about that and discuss it as a group. So Mark, the next big issue that you mentioned was this whole idea of righteousness. And how righteousness isn't particularly that popular. We don't kind of naturally think about that. What does it mean to kind of live a right life and to make a stand for Jesus and kind of be righteous?
Well, I just think Christians are naive to think that if you pursue righteousness, which is what Jesus tells us to do in the Sermon on the Mount, then that's somehow going to be normative for the culture that you live in. It's probably going to be counterintuitive to the culture you live in, which shouldn't surprise any of us. This is what baffles me is that Christians that act surprised that the culture that we live in doesn't think the same as us. And I think that comes from from Christians think that the West in some way is some kind of Christian culture. Christendom kind of had its way here, and so we're, oh my goodness, the culture doesn't agree with us on, I think we talked about abortion or something like that, which obviously a many faceted issue that you have to shepherd people to all of that. But if you just take it as a cold idea, why is it surprising us that people go, because the reason you can do that is because our culture's worldview on personhood. So there's something called personhood theory, and I'm going to get into this when we get into chapter 5 in regard to sexuality. Personhood theory is an entire world where psychologically, philosophically, we made shifts in the 1800s, 1700s, 1800s, where the person gets separated out from the body so much so we become dualists so much so that your body isn't what you are as a person, which of course you can see how this then gets into gender issues and identity, that your physical person isn't who you are. There's gender and there's sex, and sex is what you're born with, but gender is what you decide. You can see where does that come from? It streams back to a kind of dualism where we separated out body and personhood. So the point about it is apply it to something like abortion or something. Of course, that's not a person in there. We define who a person is, and a person is this criteria. They're geographically outside of a womb. They do this. They don't do that. So now personhood theory. Now, of course, if a person is this and that isn't this, then we can do certain things. Well, that view if it's a non-Christian, if it's a non-Christian worldview that my neighbor is living out of, it shouldn't surprise me. I shouldn't be like, sorry, you don't think that's a person? What do you mean? It's like, that shouldn't surprise me. It should be like, yeah, I get it. You're part of a culture that thinks like that. My job isn't to sit and be surprised. My job is to go, let's have a conversation about personhood. Let's talk about what my worldview says versus yours, and think about what actually is going to stream out to real life and eternity. What is comprehensive? What answers the worldview questions? What makes sense logically? What makes sense experientially? What makes sense moralistically? Let's talk about our worldviews. So you think that, I think this. Let's see who's actually more logically consistent. That's the conversation we need to have. And then speak out of a biblical worldview to people. And hopefully that biblical worldview isn't just so a guy named Brian Walsh wrote a book called Subversive Christianity, tiny little book way back in the 80s. And he has this great thing I've never forgotten. He said, what is the job of a prophet in a culture? You go back to the prophets. What did they do? And so he's giving a metaphor that the church exists in Babylon. We believe in Babylonian, we live in Babylonian structures of reality that tell you, live for the weekend, money's all that matters, go down the line of the world. We live in that, and we're not, of course, people who believe that. So how do you do, what does Jeremiah do in Babylonian exile? He says there's two things prophets do. They offer prophetic critique on the one hand. That's where I feel Christians stop. First off, I'm not sure we always give the best prophetic critique. We just slam our hands around and scream and yell about the way it used to be. And so a prophet gives prophetic critique, but here's the second thing a prophet does. They give prophetic hope. What did Jeremiah do? Hey, Jeremiah, here's what I want you to do. I want you to buy a house. In Babylon. I want you to settle in. I want you to get a garden. I want you to work for the good of the city that you're in. Okay, so now the Christian job isn't to just do prophetic critique, which is, I think, what most people do. Not even just our culture. You go on Twitter, it's all prophetic critique. Right? That's only half the job of the prophet. Second job is to offer prophetic hope, to go, here's why it's going to be better. Here's why this way is better. That's the conversation you're having with your homie. Anyways, point being, of course, we live vastly different, counterintuitive lives to the world around us when it involves personhood or sexuality or money or wealth or status or whatever. Pick your issue. So the question becomes, live it, deal with the persecution or the pressure or the tension that comes with it, and then offer hope to the world and say, I'm not just going to believe what I believe and move on with my life. I want you to believe it too, but not in some kind of oppressive, tyrannical way. I want you to believe it because it's the better way to be human. And that's what Paul gets to when he's in 1 Corinthians 15. He's talking about, what does it mean to live the resurrection life now? The new creation has already come. In the people of Christ, you're a new creation now. Which doesn't mean just, oh, David, you as a human being, as a person, you've dealt with some of your little sin issues. Yes, of course it's that. But it's the church lives as a new creation community in the present to show the world this is actually where the future is. This is what it means to be truly human. Come be part of it. You want truth, so that's where joy comes in. Don't be walking around, come be part of it. It's like, I don't want to be part of that, man. I get way better, what does C.S. Lewis talk about? I could get a funner time just having some drinks. Right. Just stick me in the pub. Right. And give me some sherry. Whatever. Unless there's a kind of deeper joy that we're after.
Absolutely.
That we can show the world. Anyway. So I think that's the call. Both in our lives and our actual words, prophetic critique and prophetic hope at the same time. And of course, you're going to get hit and pressured, but is this surprising anybody?
Yeah.
Shouldn't.
Yeah. Okay.
We follow guys who got crucified and went to jail and got mauled by lions. We
Yeah.
shouldn't be like, oh my goodness, people don't like these ideas? Of course they don't like these ideas.
Yeah. Okay, let's discuss that as a group. Let's think about what it is to live righteously, but also let's think about how Mark mentioned that phrase of how we can offer prophetic hope to this generation and the world around us. So Mark, getting back into 1 Corinthians 4, 15 and 16, Paul mentions this whole idea that you've had counselors and things, but you really need good fathers.
Yeah,
And the
spiritual
thing
fathers.
about the thing about him is that he's speaking quite a tough way, but you also get a sense that he really loves them.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we need people like that can speak toughly into lives, and what does it mean to be a kind of spiritual father to somebody?
Well, I think one of the things that we all need is both to try. I remember a mentor of mine once said, always be mentoring someone and have someone mentoring you. So if we were to put it in 1 Corinthians, like always be a spiritual mother or father to somebody.
Yeah.
And always have a spiritual mother or father for yourself. Have someone above you and someone below you.
Yeah.
We always need that, no matter what age and stage we're at. And so I think the reality of what Paul's saying is, I gave you some tough words. I've been giving you some tough words, but I'm doing it out of love. And he does pastorally love them. All of it's, driven by love. And I think, Tim Keller said, if we only give people love, it becomes sentimental.
Yeah.
But if we only give them truth, then they can't hear it because their hearts are too defensive.
Yeah.
So we need to give them both. We need to give people truth, and we need to do it in a loving, fatherly, if you take a fatherly posture. So I think that's necessary as we're having conversations with people, as we posture ourselves toward culture, as we discuss things with one another. If you see something in your brother, you can say, well, I'm a speaker of truth. I will call them out. You do this, you do this, you do this, and you better change it. And you walk out. It's like they can't hear that. They're never going to change. Yeah. But if you do it in love, if you do it out of relational connection, if you do it after you've made investments, I often talk about the staff dynamic of, it's really hard to look at a staff member and make a withdrawal and go, you are terrible at this, you need to change, if I haven't made a whole bunch of deposits in the bank first, right? Like, here, you're great, you're this, you're this, you're this, like, opportunity, experience, leadership development, leaning in, spending time with them. Yeah. Then you make a withdrawal and you go, man, you really blew it. Yeah. But if all you do is go, you really blew it, it's like you're never going to have, things again. So anyway, so I think that's just true about each other. I think what he's doing is he's setting them up for what he's going to talk about in chapter 5. He's going to start calling them out on sexual things. He's going to call them out on greed. He's going to call them out on gossip. He's going to call them out on being swindlers, and he's going to call them out on all these great things. They're going to be but he's going to actually go as far to say there's discipline that needs to happen within the church to people who are just part of this kind of world of sin, and they won't change and they won't work on it and they won't repent. Cut them off. What is that? How is he going to? He can't just. He's got to make some deposits first. Yeah. And that's what he's trying to do now. He's trying to say, I love you guys. What I'm about to say to you for the next couple chapters, like, what happens when you want to sue each other, and what happens if you don't have a good marriage? That's what 5, 6, 7 chapters 5, 6, 7 are about. I'm going to say some tough stuff. I gotta frame all this in love first. I'm your father. I'm talking to you as a dad. I love you. Yeah. This is what I want for you, best for your life. So anyway, so I think that's speak to each other in that way. Yeah. Call each other out. Anyway, so talk to me about your experience with that in the church. I think people who've called you out but done it in love, so you changed in light of it, or how you've done that with other people, maybe.
Yeah, I think the critical thing is that relational element that you've mentioned.
Right.
I think you've got to invest. You have to invest in other people's lives. You can't always expect. And
he's great at that. We were spending time this week, and one of our staff members did a big meal for their community group. Tons of food. Chrissy, his wife, was telling us the story this week, or someone actually else told the story, and then the power went out, and no one was coming over. So they posted this picture of themselves, like, "Hey, we have all this food, we have nothing to eat." And 20 minutes later, these guys just knocked on the door and walked in and went, "Hey, we saw that you had food. We'll come." And you hung out for the night by candlelight, whatever. You love to lean into the relational aspect of life. Yeah. And that piece of, you guys are in community groups. You're talking about how to reach people for Jesus. Hospitality. What's that book that came out? The Gospel Comes with a House Key. Oh, yeah. It's like hospitality is a massive way that the church is actually going to reach more people for Jesus. Anyway, so you're really good at that relational piece. But go ahead.
You know, we've had guys live with us over the years just
Yeah.
to help them out, come out of the scenes that they're in, speak into their lives. And just to say to people, it works.
Yeah.
I think, and one of the guys that we're really close to in London, you know, just looking at how, he said one of the big things was just being around your family, like you're going to Uganda and people imbibe that, they see your family and what happens.
Sure.
And I think that for us is that often we think, what gifts have I actually got?
Right.
And what would amaze you, as far as the culture's concerned, you know, you think about the culture's divorce rate, problems, issues, sin. When they see that, and they see a family that's working, that's a real witness.
Yeah.
And when people look at that, it's really attractive.
Yeah.
So my thing is don't dismiss yourself.
Yeah.
Just your family can infect and affect
Totally.
people's lives. So
Yeah, it's great.
cool. Yeah, good. Okay, let's just think about the whole issue around fathers. And if you don't have a spiritual mentor, think about who God is drawing you to, that they can speak into you. Maybe it's time in your life where you think about where you can give out and give into other people's lives relationally. So let's just talk about that as a group. And also talk about the love that Paul has for the church, that he's prepared to be tough. And sometimes we need to be tough, but the key thing, like Mark mentions, is that we deliver that with love. So let's discuss that as a group. Hi guys, it's been really great to be talking through some key issues this week. But what I'd like you to do, kind of prayer-wise, is to be thinking about our new planted at Coquitlam. That's the new church that's going to be established, and that's Marco and his team, and that's in April. I know it's a little way out, but it'd be good to pray into that. And also let's be thinking and praying about the Uganda trip as well. So great to see you again this week, and we'll see you soon.